Why hello there beautiful people, Kaz the Blackheart back here with another video, and as you can tell from the title, we're going to be talking about the possibility of an NCAA football video game coming out in the next few years, and this is just a little wish list that I made that is very similar to the Madden NFL 21 wish list that I made. You can check that out. It should be popping up in the top right corner right about now. If it's not, get on me in the comment section and I will take care of it. But it's similar to that, only this time we're talking about the NCAA football series and the prospect of it coming back. If you guys haven't already heard, the NCAA made a ruling last week, I believe it was, that all college athletes can now profit off of their likeness, their name, and all that other stuff. So that's basically going to make it possible for an NCAA football game to be created with the likeness of all these colleges, all these teams and whatnot. And I think the prospect is very exciting, but it has to be executed properly. And I don't care if it's EA making the game, I don't care if it's 2K making the game, I don't even care if Canuck Play gets a hold of the license and Maximum Football becomes the main source of NCAA football that there is. They gotta be able to execute it properly. And here's my wish list. It's not exactly 10 different things, it's about 8 actually, but let's get into the list now. So number 1 is an in-game team builder. Now, if you guys who aren't really familiar with the older NCAA games, the way we went about uploading our teams, the way that Baltimore State became a team, and a dynasty for me, and of course like UGF for Not the Expert, so on and so forth, Kalispell for Hurricane. The way these teams came about was that EA made a little website called it was easports.com/team builder, I believe it was. I might be wrong. Just correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's what off the top of my head, that's what I remember it being. But basically, that's how we were able to import our teams into the game, pretty much, just using that website. And it got shut down, I believe, a year or so ago, so nobody can even really use it. Now, it did come back up like a year ago, but basically we couldn't save any teams on it, so it's pretty much worthless at this point. But in order to avoid that, just in case something falls through with the NCAA where they stop making college football games again, I think that they should add an in-game team builder so you can create, a Baltimore State or a UGF or a Kalispell in the game instead of just on a website, which they can just basically shut down whenever they see fit. In addition to that, I really hope that they do not try to charge us in order to get team builder slots like they did for NCAA 14, because I just thought that was completely ridiculous how you could only have up to 12 teams to start out with, and basically you had to buy a bunch of slots. That just was kind of near the beginning of EA's heist with all these damn microtransactions and whatnot. But hopefully they don't do that, but I wouldn't be shocked if they did, especially now that I said something like an EA rep's going to see me making this video and all of a sudden, oh, we should charge even more for the slots. If so, I take full responsibility and I apologize. But yeah, an in-game team builder definitely needs to be in the next NCAA football game, regardless of who makes it. Number 2, a deeper dynasty mode. Me being a content creator, this is something that I am going to be yearning for once the development of a new NCAA football game comes out. I think Maximum Football 2019, for all its faults, did a really good job with their dynasty mode for the most part. There are still a few things that they could have done better, but with such a tight budget and so few people working on the game, I understand why it wasn't as deep as, some of us might have wanted. But when I say a deeper dynasty mode, I'm talking about like Madden's franchise mode, only vastly better. I think you should have the choice to be maybe a player or a coordinator like you could in the previous NCAA titles, or a head coach, or even an athletic director. I think that would be really dope to be an AD and just have total control over the football program pretty much. Obviously it wouldn't extend out to basketball, though they could. That's a video for another day. But Yeah, I think, there should be different levels like there are for like Madden's Connected Franchise, where you can be a player, a coach, or an owner. I think they should go deeper with that. I think there should be position coaches as well. That's going to be pretty tough. It's going to take a lot of time, but I mean, EA has the money. They have the resources to do that, so I don't think that would be asking too much of them. And an All-American game, like the Under Armour All-American game. Just some kind of high school all-star game so you can see all the recruits in action. I think a spring game should also be added. Similar to what I did with my Baltimore State dynasty. Similar to what SCP did with the Durant dynasty a while ago. I mean, it was a lot of work to put in. I think that we should have been able to have like a spring game. And nothing like the PS2 and Xbox spring games where it's just like, oh, you get the ball for 5 minutes, the defense will score points off of getting like a pick or getting a sack or something like that. That's stupid. Let's have like an actual, football game like they do in real life and have that be the spring game. I mean, I think that's definitely a doable thing. And levels to recruit, like recruits committing. I'm talking about, soft commits, verbal commits, hard commits, and even decommits as well. Like, for example, if you're recruiting the number 1 and the number 2 quarterback in the nation, the number 1 signs with you first. He signs his letter of intent first. The number 2 quarterback should just be like, well, I might have verbally commit with you guys, but now that I know you have that guy, I don't want to compete with him, so I'm going to decommit and I'm going to go somewhere else. I think that scenario should definitely come up in whatever NCAA football game comes out. And adding and removing conferences as well. I mean, the NCAA is always expanding pretty much as far as Division 1, as far as the FBS, the FCS. I know, maybe we can bring back the WAC division or something like that. Maybe we can bring back the Big East. That would be dope. And add more teams from the FCS. Well, that's going to be like a segue into that point. We'll get there in a second. But then another thing, medical red shirts. I feel like since the game moved from PS2 to Xbox 360 and PS3, since then we really haven't been able to do medical red shirts. I know in NCAA Football 14 you can't at all. And that was really frustrating when you lose a senior, like a true senior, to a season-ending injury, you can't bring him back. And if it happens early in the season, you should be able to medical redshirt him so they get a 5th year of eligibility. But you haven't been able to do that since the PS2 days, and I don't understand why that was taken out of the game and never added back. I think that should definitely be added back if you want to make Dynasty mode as deep as it can possibly be. And with the increase of graduate transfers, you got guys who want to increase their NFL stock and whatnot. I think graduate transfers should be added. If you spent 4 years at an institution and you're heading into your 5th year of eligibility and you've already graduated, you should be able to transfer to another team just like they do in real life. So that's basically going to cover a deeper Dynasty mode. There's a lot more, but I don't want that to be the only point that I talk about in this video. Now, number 3, FCS teams and an FCS Dynasty. There's just no reason that FCS teams shouldn't be in the next version of an NCAA football game. I mean, they were in the PS2 versions. They were in the Xbox and GameCube versions of the game as well. So the fact that they were absent from the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions of the game was kind of confusing to me, to be honest with you. Especially when you have Alabama playing against FCS teams every single season. All the other power teams like Ohio State, Clemson are always playing FCS teams. I think they should definitely actually be represented by, they should actually have representation, not just an FCS East or an FCS West, honestly. But yeah, I think they should even have their own spot in a Dynasty mode because you're playing against teams like that. And, have their own playoff thing and all that. We're actually going to segue into playoff expansion as well after this point. But yeah, FCS teams should definitely be in the next edition of the NCAA football games. Number 4, playoff expansion. I'm one of the few under the belief that the FBS should expand to at least an 8-team playoff, if not a 16 or a 32, where each conference is represented in the playoffs. I think you could do that with a 16 team, so 16 would probably be what I would do. But I know, there are a lot of complaints about the idea of expanding the playoff. I mean, I'm not going to get too deep into that, but I think that there should be an option for at least NCAA football, video game players to have a tournament, because that's something that we haven't had since NCAA 98, I believe, if I remember correctly. It might have been 99 or 2000, I don't remember, but it's been a long time since we've had an NCAA football game where we can play tournament mode, and it would be nice if they added it into the next edition of the game, especially since we already have a 14 playoff. Why not give us an opportunity to expand to an 8, 16, 32, and hell, if you're really crazy, do a 64 team or something like that, just like college basketball. I mean, they have 68, not 64, but you know what I mean, though. Number 5, multiple broadcast teams. Now, most of us growing up playing this game, we've always heard the team of Brad Nessler, Lee Corso, and Kirk Herbstreit commentating our NCAA football experience. After a while, Corso left and it was just Nessler and Herbstreit. Now, those guys did a really good job, I feel like, with the commentary, especially later on in the series. But just like they did with NCAA Basketball 10, I think that if EA is going to make this game, or even if, 2K makes the game, there should be multiple broadcast teams. For SEC games, or just CBS games in general, Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson, just in real life, would be the commentary team. For Fox, it could be Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. Gus Johnson did a great job with all the Madden games he did. He was probably my favorite Madden commentator that we've ever had. I mean, Brendan Gaudin's doing a great job with Madden as far as commentary goes. But I think he'd do a great job with an NCAA football game. And then ESPN, I would say either Chris Fowler, I would lean towards Brent Musburger, honestly, and then Kirk Herbstreit as well. If they want to put someone else in there, maybe Joe Tessitore, he has experience with doing EA Sports games. He used to be the commentator for all the Fight Night games. And I think when it was Knockout Kings, he did that too as well. And he works for ESPN now. He does Monday Night Football, and I think Joe Tessitore does a really good job. I mean, considering Booger McFarland is his partner in crime pretty much, I think Tessitore does a pretty good job with that. So it doesn't have to be necessarily those 3 teams. Maybe they can add more, or maybe just have 2 teams, but multiple teams in general, as far as broadcasting goes, will just make the game better. It wouldn't make it worse at all, at least if you ask me. So now number 6, customizable recruiting classes. Now, they were able to make customizable draft classes in Madden 20. So I don't see any reason, assuming EA gets the game, as again, I'm not trying to make any assumptions, that's why I haven't just said EA until now. But EA and 2K have experience with customizable draft classes, so I don't think that customizable recruiting classes would be too hard of a thing to do. Now, in EA's case, if they were to do it, they gotta make it so you can edit the classes offline, because, I mean, I don't know that you can edit the classes off, the draft classes, outside of just creating a new franchise mode and just going to scouting 2 weeks in advance and then editing like that. I mean, I might be wrong. Maybe I'm just dumb and I don't know how to do it outside of franchise mode, but I mean, the fact that you can't really do it outside of franchise mode with relative ease for a dummy like me is kind of disconcerting. I mean, I think they did a good job with the customizable draft classes, but I think if you're going to do a customizable recruiting class, you should be able to do it offline. I mean, you can do it offline in 2K for the most part, so why can't you do it in a game like Madden or NCAA Football? I mean, I think that shouldn't be too hard of a thing for either EA or 2K. And Maximum Football, if they have a better budget, I think they'd be able to do it too. So, number 7, a revamped Road to Glory mode. Now, back in 2005 for NCAA Football 06, they unveiled this mode called Race for the Heisman, which would be known as Campus Legend the very next year, and what we all have come to know as Road to Glory. Basically, it was a mode where you begin as a high school standout hoping to sign with a major college program, and back in those days, you would just do drills which would help you get looked at by colleges. In later editions of the game, you were even able to play your high school games en route to going to a college. Now, back in the PS2 Xbox days, I feel like they did a much better job with Campus Legend and Race to the Heisman than they did with Road to Glory. I feel like they really fell off with those modes, and I mean, they're pretty much all one mode because they're very similar, but I think you got to revamp it. I think you got to make it a lot better than it was in the 2014 edition of the game. Well, 2013 technically, but basically NCAA Football 14 is what I'm trying to say. But, you know, maybe not have us go actually like into classes, but we should be able to pick like a major and basically have to like keep up our academic standing by answering certain questions, like, you know, and if you answer those questions, your awareness goes up, or like, you know, your throwing accuracy goes up if you're like a QB. Like, you know, by doing well in school, you're also improving as a player as well. Just like something like that, I think should be added back into the game. And I feel like it would make me actually want to play the game a lot more, because I really didn't touch Road to Glory as much as everybody else did for the most part. I'm mainly focused on Dynasty. But if they could make it similar to what it was back in 2006, 2007, I'd be much more inclined to give it a shot. And number 8 on the list, and probably the least likely to happen, a deeper playbook creation. And I'm talking not even just creating playbooks. I'm talking about creating plays back in like the older Madden games on PS2 and Xbox, where you were able to like create your own plays. I just don't understand why you can't create them. You weren't able to create them in any of the 360 or PS3 Maddens, and you, up to this point, cannot create them in Madden 20. I just don't understand it. I mean, I kind of get it because, you know, there are a lot of people who try to exploit, you know, creating playbooks, creating plays for like online mode or whatnot. But honestly, just put restrictions on, like, you know, having those plays go into like the online mode for NCAA, for example. I think that would definitely help out a whole lot if that's what they're trying to avoid, if they're trying to avoid people cheating. But being able to create your own plays is like one of the most underrated parts of like the older Madden games. It was so much fun as well, like, you know, just creating different like routes, and especially like with being able to pitch, you'll be able to make like hook and ladder plays. You'll be able to make those like crazy schoolyard BS plays and whatnot. You know, when you need to score desperately late in the game, you don't have any timeouts or whatever. I think being able to create your own plays would be absolutely amazing. And if they actually implemented it into like an NCAA football game and like a Madden game or whatever, it would be absolutely killer, bro. I think a lot of people would mark out about it. A lot of people would be really hyped, because I mean, I think that's a part of the game that we didn't realize that we missed, but we really did miss like a whole lot. And it sucks that it's not a part of the game. I've always felt this way. I just never really spoke about it because I didn't really feel like a lot of people cared that much about it. But as I talk to people, I know a lot of people who enjoyed creating plays back in like the older Maddens. So I think adding that would be a pleasant surprise. I highly doubt it will happen, but a man could hope, right? So that's my list, and yes, it was just 8. It wasn't 10 like my Madden video was, but 8 different things that I am hoping are in the next edition of NCAA Football, regardless of who makes it, whether it's EA, whether it's 2K, whether it's Canuck Play, or anybody else who wants to come out the woodwork to make an NCAA game. That is what I am hoping for. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Let me know in the comment section what you want to see in the next NCAA football game. Let me know who you think should create the next NCAA football game, whether it's EA still making them, or even 2K, or Canuck Play having another go at another Maximum Football game. Let me know in the comment section, guys. Thank you so much for watching. You have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day and night whenever you're watching this. Like I always say, guys, no matter what happens, make sure you keep that mofo rolling, and you win some, you lose some, but you live to fight another day. I'm out of here. Deuces.
God, they tryna turn me to a monster. Every year I'm a conquer. Okay, see, I bring the thunder. Walking in humble, I leave Muhammad. Sting you like Bumble. Running with pride, 10 over. Eyes to a bliss, I don't fumble blind.